TJ Friedl is guaranteed to be the Reds center fielder in 2026. Or is he? We're going to talk about the center field position and ways the Reds could improve on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Reds. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Cincinnati Reds, every single day. And my name is Jeff. His name is Steve. And we are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans that have been podcasting about this team for a combined 14 seasons. And we're glad that you're alongside us here today. On today's show, we are going to talk about a bunch of different little news and notes that happened over the last few days, including Terry Francona being nominated for Manager of the Year. That's coming up later on in the podcast. In just a few minutes, we will look at the shuffle that's happened. It's not a ton of guys, and quite frankly, I'm sure a lot of people were like, hitting coach. No, still Chris Valaika. But there were a couple of guys that have moved out, moved on, gone other places, and we have new coaches in their spots for this Reds coaching staff. We'll talk about that here in just a few, but we will begin with TJ Friedl, the thing that nobody's talking about that they should be. And why he is just kind of penciled into this roster and in this lineup every single day. That's all in today's show. That's brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to save $20 off your first purchase. All right, Steve, I kind of feel like anybody that's watched this team over the last few years is going into 2026 and saying the Reds have a good center fielder. The Reds have TJ Friedl. He's one of the best center fielders in all of baseball, or at least the National League. And I think for part of his career, he was. But this past year brought up some question marks that I think we need to address moving forward. Because if we continue to expect what we've seen in the past, I think we will be disappointed.
I think it's important to preface this conversation, Jeff, with that we are not TJ Friedl bashing. We're not coming into this to bash TJ Friedl. But it was surprising to me, as we looked at these numbers, just where he ranks and especially his defensive metrics, because I think if you were to ask, 100 average Reds fans to rate TJ Friedl's defense and to ask them to kind of guess where he ranks amongst baseball as far as center fielders go, 75 to 80% of those casual Reds fans would tell you TJ Friedl is one of the best defensive center fielders out there. And shockingly, the numbers don't support that at all. I think that we remember his great diving catches and his robbing balls at the wall and things that he's done over the years. But when you add that into all of his everyday defensive play, he's not quite the defensive guru that I think a lot of people have pictured in their mind.
No, there's a couple of statistics that you can look at for fielding and things like that. He's one of those guys where I think the eye test kind of fights back a little bit with the numbers, but there's a key caveat with defensive run saved because, at least according to outs above average, he is positive. He has positive 1 outs above average as a center fielder last year, which is fine, right? It's fine. It's not amazing, but it's also not below average or anything like that. It's fine. Defensive run saved, though, is negative 10. And to put that into perspective, we're talking about a bunch of other guys on this roster that I think people have just as many question marks about. Guys like Ellie De La Cruz and guys like, Sal Stewart and things like that. They all have negative defensive runs saved that are very similar to TJ Friedl. And so I think that it's key for us to understand defensive run saved factors in, throwing and all of the different things, whereas outs above average is strictly range based. Because they utilize StatCast where they see starting position and ending position when a guy makes a play, things like that. And so that's more range-based. Defensive runs saved is more of an all-inclusive metric. And so the all-inclusive numbers on him aren't that great defensively. And then whenever you bring in his offense, and there's a couple of key caveats with this as well, you look at the fact that the slugging now for 2 seasons has been under 400. His career slugging is 414, but for the last 2 seasons has been 380. And it's been 378. And I think that some folks would say, well, he dealt with a lot of injuries in 2024, probably still not quite right from the injuries in 2025. So it's understandable that that statistic would be a little bit lower than normal. The caveat that I think with that is important to know is who TJ Friedl is as a player. He is a 150% energy guy. He will never slow down, and nor should he. And that's one of the reasons that we love him. But that's also one of the reasons that I don't know that you can use injury as an excuse, because there's very likely never going to be a point where he's not playing hurt.
I think I agree with you. I recall during the 2023 season, everybody getting very excited about TJ Friedl. And I kept saying, I'm not sold on that. I don't know who he is. Is he this guy that in 138 games put up 3.6 WAR, 117 OPS plus, had a slash line of 279, 352, 467? Is that who he is? Or is it more likely that who he really is this guy that played in 152 games, was nicked a bunch along the way, had an OPS plus of 102 with a slash line that looked like 261, 364, 378? I suspect that the 2025 TJ Friedl is much more likely to be the 2026 TJ Friedl than the 2023 TJ Friedl. I think that's who he is, Jeff. You look at just OPS plus over his career. It's 102, 104, 117, 88, 102. The 117 is the outlier. It was a really, really good year for him. The 88 is the other outlier where he was injured and nicked a bunch. And then you look at the other two seasons where it was an average season for him. He got a fair amount of playing time. He was 104, 102. So 2 to 4% better than league average. Now, look, that's nothing to sneeze at, Jeff. And especially given this Cincinnati Reds outfield, given what some of the other options are, give me TJ Friedl all day long. But I think we've just along the way, because the Reds outfield has been so bad, we've seized a hold of TJ Friedl. Like, oh my God, this could be our potential all-star guy. This guy can be great out there. And maybe we're doing that thing we do, right? Where we're just kind of setting expectation way too high, and the player is doomed to not be able to meet them.
Well, and let's also be honest too. Like, if we are, because what we're saying here is we're honestly evaluating TJ Friedl, and I think that that's hard for us to do for a couple of reasons. Number one, he is a great personality guy, one of the easiest guys on this team to root for, and I love rooting for him. I love having TJ Friedl on this team. Number two, if we are honest and we say that he's fine, he's not necessarily a good outfielder, but he's a fine outfielder. Or maybe even we worry about his defense a little bit more and say the Reds could do better here. Then we are literally saying there is no outfielder in this team that we trust, because we hope that Noelvi Marte can be a guy in right field. I think it's still too small of a sample size to say that we know that.
Yep.
But we know that there's potential there. TJ Friedl is not the kind of guy where you say, well, there's potential for him to just go crazy. I think he kind of is who he is at this point. So understanding who he is can at least set us up for a little bit more reasonable expectations. This is our offseason of balance, right? This is our offseason where Locked On Reds, you and me, are balancing everything out, where we look and we see, okay, what is this? What does it mean? Where are we really at with this topic? And where we are really at with TJ Friedl is he is fine, but if the Reds can improve center field and maybe move TJ Friedl to left field, then I think that this offense, or this outfield and this team as a whole is better off.
And that's where this whole conversation's been going, folks. The idea that when the Reds go get this outfielder that we really want them to get, and Jeff and you and I have been guilty of this too, but everybody's narrative has been power hitting corner outfielder, left fielder, right fielder. That doesn't necessarily need to be the case, because we talked this week about Miguel Andujar being a guy the Reds should consider bringing back. If you go get a center fielder that can hit for power and give you decent defense, and you can move TJ Friedl to be part of a platoon with Miguel Andujar, and Andujar can get some at-bats at DH also, you've dramatically upgraded the outfield there by bringing in a bopper, somebody that still plays good defense, keeps TJ Friedl involved. It lets you move some parts around, I guess, is what I'm saying. And so it doesn't necessarily mean you can only look at free agents that are willing to be corner outfielders. You can only look at guys you're going to stick in left and right. No, you can go out and talk to teams, especially if your outfield ad is going to come via trade. You can talk to teams about center fielders also and find a combination that works best for the Cincinnati Reds. TJ Friedl is going to be part of this team. TJ Friedl is going to be at least at a minimum a platoon starter on this team. He's going to be in more games than he's not, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play 152 games in center field in 2026.
I agree.
Love that analysis, Jeff. All right. The Reds made a lot of small moves, little moves over the last couple days. And one of those things was shuffling the coaching staff just a little bit. Coming up next, we're going to talk about who is now coaching where. The NFL season is in full swing, and honestly, there is nothing better than being in the stadium, surrounded by fans, cheering on your team, watching a Bengals defense give up 127 points a game. You just can't beat it, but let's be honest, getting the tickets can be a hassle. Between the queues, the login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's very, very frustrating. That's why I use Game Time. That's why Jeff uses Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. We use this all the time. We tell you guys about it. We go down to the banks during Reds games. We get something to eat. We get something to drink. And just before first pitch, we grab our tickets, head inside. This works great for the NFL also. This works great for college football as well. Get your UC tickets. Get your Ohio State Buckeyes tickets here. The possibilities are endless. They've got concerts. They've got comedy shows. They have it all. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account and use the code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get $20 off your first purchase, which is already going to be greatly discounted because they have such good deals. Now, terms do apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time now. Make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the great Cincinnati Reds content we've got coming your way all offseason long. We're going to be right here with you, breaking down the news, the notes, the rumors, and the reports to get you set for the 2026 baseball season. All right, Jeffrey, the Reds have shuffled some coaches around. This kind of all started back a couple weeks ago when we heard that J.R. House was leaving the Reds to go take the same job with the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's going to go be the third base coach and the catching coach / coordinator for the Diamondbacks because he lives in Arizona. He loves to be in Arizona. He wants to be at home with his family. I get it. It makes sense to me. We wish J.R. House well, but it created an opening. And the Reds really didn't lean into what they were going to do yet, and they have now kind of announced what they're going to do. There's been some retirements and some ads, and people are moving around and doing different things.
Yes, now we have a new third base coach in Willie Harris, and there is a new assistant bench coach, which I didn't necessarily see who was promoted to full bench coach. Maybe that's or maybe that's what Brad Mills' official title was. Yeah, and Freddie Benavides is the full bench coach. That's right. I got that all twisted up in my brain. But Mike Napoli, who was kind of the do-everything coach for the Reds this past season, now becomes the assistant bench coach. And I think it's intriguing because number one, Mike Napoli has been a Terry Francona guy quite a lot, and he's worked with Terry Francona quite a lot. And being here this last season, he kind of had his hand in all the different pots, and so now as being an assistant bench coach, that will continue. But Willie Harris comes over from the Cubs. He was the Cubs' third base coach for the last couple of years, including on the David Ross coaching staff. He was a holdover from that tenure or from that era there before they kicked David Ross to the curb and stole Craig Counsell from the Brewers. And so Willie Harris hung out for a little bit, and now he is coming back to the Reds organization. He actually managed Daytona a couple of years ago. Managed Daytona for the Reds a couple of years ago. So seeing him as the third base coach will be intriguing because he was once a player, once a second baseman for the Reds and for multiple different teams. I'm encouraged that we got these kind of hires, though, because they're getting plenty of experience both with Tito and with multiple organizations.
Yeah, I agree with the moves overall. Now let's talk about the one that's not on the list, and that is the hitting coach, right? Everybody's been clamoring for a change at hitting coach, and I always stumble on his name. Say it for
Chris
me. Valleca. Thank you. I always try Chris Valleca. Interestingly enough, I did hear that Valleca is going to get an interview down at Paycor because the Bengals are really interested in a guy that can't get any scoring can stop scoring, and he could do that. But
right.
I think Valleca got a bum deal, or at least a bad rep in 2025. I don't think the Reds' woes were directly related back to him. He's had success. Now, if the Reds run another team out there in 2026 that can't hit, maybe there's something to be done. But I'm not shocked. I guess that's where I'm going with this. I want to get to the point of asking you, are you shocked that they made no change at hitting coach? Because I'm not.
No, because I would like to ask somebody, and if you're listening or if you're watching, listening, whatever, drop down to the comment section. Tell me, like, let's go into an alternate universe. They did let go of Chris Valleca, and they hired Joe Schmo or whoever. Like, let's say they went and they hired Joey Votto as hitting coach. Do you feel better about this lineup? Because Joey Votto's not getting out there and hitting. Chris Valleca's not going out there and hitting. The hitting coach isn't part of the lineup. He just helps them work on a few things. Like, it's more so about the talent that's on the field when it comes to the position coaches. I think position coaches are hired because they work well with the manager that their staff is led by. And I think Chris Valleca proved in Cleveland that he works really well with Terry Francona. So hopefully we do see a big uptick in the hitting. The other one that I had missed when I was listing the moves is that Bill Hasselman was hired as catching coach. So J.R. House was the third base coach and the catching coach. They split that into two. Willie Harris, third base coach. Now Bill Hasselman is the catching coach. The reason that is important, he was on Terry Francona's Boston Red Sox World Series curse busting team coaching staff back then. And so he has had that experience as well. So new catching coach, new third base coach, new assistant bench coach. I thought it was intriguing that they didn't give the catching coach duties to Mike Napoli, but there's so many coaches for so many different things anymore on major league staffs. Like, I was watching a show the other day where they're talking about, the Reds have multiple hitting coaches. The Reds have multiple, there's pitching coordinators and assistant pitching coaches underneath of Derek Johnson. There's so many different coaches anymore that it does not surprise me that they split J.R. House's duties into two. I kind of was surprised that he did two different jobs for the last few years.
Well, and if we're being honest, I think the catching job is what kept J.R. House around as long as it did, because I don't necessarily.
He had a good report.
I don't think he was necessarily a great third base coach.
Right.
I'm interested to see the difference in another personality over there at third base and what the sends look like. And because there were times that I like JR really had me frustrated, but he did have a great relationship with the catching core of this team and really work with them and spent a lot of time with Tyler Stevenson. And we did see dividends from the work that Tyler Stevenson was doing with J.R. House. Having Harris over there now, it's going to be a little bit different. It'll be interesting to see. I think with Napoli, the reason that they're structuring it the way that they have is, and I think you hit the nail on the head, they want Napoli to have a broader role. They want him to be involved in more things. And I think that there's more than one person in that Reds building that thinks Napoli is going to be more and more grooming him a little bit to be a manager someday, right? Not just be a coach in a career coach. So I
there's
can
no
see
better
why.
Position. Yeah. There's no better position that
why.
becomes a manager as a catcher. Like catchers make the best managers.
Right. I could totally see they're doing that. They're building a foundation with Napoli. I understand why I think assistant bench coach versus something with the catcher, but he's going to help with the catchers too. So, it's a broader role for him.
And one more thing on Willie Harris. I will say this. The one big reason that we all know Colin Cowgill so much is that he headbutts guys whenever they get singles and they get to first base, or maybe even they draw a really key walk and he gives them a headbutt, congratulatory. I want the only reason to know Willie Harris's name because he does something cool whenever somebody gets to third base. The reason we knew J.R. House's name quite a bit were just bad sends or bad stop signs, bad all around. Like, you don't really want to know the names of your base coaches. And hopefully this is one of the last times we mentioned
it's like
Willie Harris.
It's like in football, if you know the name of your team's long snapper, there's a problem at long snapper. If you know the name of your third base coach, it's because he's got bad sins or bad stops, and that is not a good thing. I'm interesting to see the dynamic change over there because I really do think that the catching situation is what kept J.R. House so, comfy, I guess, kept him safe. And I'm interested to see things change up a little bit, because I really do think that JR missed the boat. Maybe not more often than not, but he had a lot of misses, whether it was sending when he shouldn't or stopping when he shouldn't. It just seemed to me like he never really was consistent over there with how he judged the speed of the runners he had on base.
I will say I felt like I was less mad at him this past season than I was in any other year, so I chalked that up a little bit.
Well, there was a lot more things to be mad about this year.
Well, yes, there certainly was. But I chalked that up to Tito. And you know why I chalked that up to Tito? Because he got nominated for a very prestigious award. The best way to make your sports watching experience more fun is with Prize Picks, because Prize Picks, you can put together daily lineups of your favorite players with your favorite stats. Now you got to do is click more or less on those stats, and you can get paid, because it's great to be right. When you're right on Prize Picks, you get paid. Click more on Jamar Chase receiving yards. Click more on T. Higgins touchdowns. All of those great things over on Prize Picks. And the best way to do it, because you got to go over to Kentucky to put your Prize Picks lineup together, you go over to Covington, blocking a bridge from the ballpark, to Smoke Justice, and you put in your lineup and you get paid. Download the app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. If you can't listen to us, or you can't watch us, you can listen to us on your favorite podcasting app. We're on all of them out there, free and available everywhere you get your podcast. All right, Steve, a couple of different things that have happened over the last few days. We'll start first with Terry Francona nominated to be manager of the year. Is he going to win? Is he going to win?
No. I think this goes to Pat Murphy. There's no good reason why the Milwaukee Brewers won 97 games. Every year we say this is the year that the Brewers fall flat on their face, and then every year they don't. And I really think, Pat Murphy's guiding hand, study hand on the helm for Milwaukee played a big role in why they got to 97 wins this season. I think that he's going to get that award. I love that Tito is amongst the finalists, though. And I think that's well-deserved. I think the little extra attention, the attaboy for coming into Cincinnati and kind of keeping this group focused enough to take advantage of the Mets collapse is worthy of the attaboy. Now, if they had somehow upset the Dodgers or even got a playoff win, maybe we're having a different conversation. But, thanks, Terry. You did a great job this season. Let's do better next year. Here's your attaboy, pat on the back, slap on the butt. Let's go.
A couple of episodes ago, we really broke down the value of Terry Francona. I'm going to put the link right over here for you to click on. But I think he absolutely deserves to be named in the finalists of this award. But I agree with you. I don't think he wins. I think it's Pat Murphy, or there's a couple of other guys that could probably get it over Terry Francona, although he's got the name recognition. So I still think there's at least a chance that he gets named winner, but I don't think he's by any stretch the favorite to win that award. Another thing happened. The Reds made a trade, and they got Bob's favorite player. They got the guy that everybody wants the jersey of, and I'm sure it's sold out at this point in the Reds team shop. Ryan Vlad, who we saw for a minute. He looks pretty bad out in the outfield. But we saw for a minute, played most of the year in Louisville last year. Ryan Vlad was traded for cash considerations. Your thoughts?
More cabbage for the cabbage man. Hopefully the Reds spend that money on the team.
I think they do. And I know that this is
because also it's possible that Phil was running low on hair gel, and this was just a move to resupply Phil. It could very well be what happened.
I think that this is one of those things that it's almost like an unwritten rule amongst all of baseball front offices that if a general manager makes a trade and acquires money, that money's then put back into the roster. I don't think that money goes into the coffers or whatever you want to say about that. I think that he's going to put it back into the team. Now, it's never reported exactly how much was given, and I don't expect it was a ton. Like, it's not like they just got $35 million that they're going to go hand to Kyle Schwarber now. but I think it's something that goes back into the roster fund, as it were. And then one other thing, Steve, because Arizona Fall League's going on and we've been seeing some performances from guys. We talked a little bit about how Cam Collier has looked pretty good out there. Rhett Lowder pitched on Saturday and he struggled. He gave up a couple of home runs. He walked a batter, only struck out 2, gave up a couple of hits as well. His ERA in Arizona is now up to 5. How worried are you on a scale of 9 to 10 about Rhett Lowder?
I am not worried about Rhett Lowder at all. Look, it's the Arizona Fall League, and I get it. We want to see him out there mowing people down. We want to see him, having tremendous amounts of success. Look, in the Arizona Fall League right now, he has a high ERA in 4 starts, 9 innings, Jeff. He's not even making full starts. 9 innings in 4 starts. In those 9 innings, strikeouts per 9 is 8. Walks per 9 is 1. He's just doing some rust removal out there, folks, in order to get ready for spring training. The numbers don't mean anything. The important part is he's healthy. That's the only thing that matters. That's the takeaway. Let's everybody listen. Where's Aaron Rodgers when we need him? Relax. It's fine. Just bring it down a notch. Rhett Lowder's fine.
And I do notice too, like Leo Baltazar has actually had a really good Arizona Fall League. He's hitting 361 with an 862 OPS. It'll be interesting to see what he brings to the table next year. I don't necessarily know if he gets the name, but yeah.
Can I say that I am equally as unexcited about that? Can I just say that this is just about repetition,
getting work
and
in,
extra opportunity and getting work in? Look, I know that there's some of us that are like big time baseball junkies. Jeff, you and I are these guys. But people are so desperate for news and stats and games that they get extra worked up about things like the Arizona Fall League and forget what it's really about. It's the same thing when someone goes to the Dominican Winter League or whatever it is and has either big numbers or bad numbers and everybody's losing their mind. This is just about the extra work, and it's okay. It's okay.
Steve, I've gone through 3 days without baseball. I need more baseball.
I know, Jeff. It's going to be all right. Rhett Lowder is going to be all right. It's going to be okay. I'm just, again, I'm really glad these guys are healthy and on the field. That's really all that matters.
Speaking of healthy on the field, Alfredo Duno started a catcher on Saturday, so he is still
Which
playing
is great,
out in Arizona.
because
we talked about that injury.
Right. He's nursing a little bit of a leg injury, which for a catcher is a problem. And it's good to see him back out there, and hopefully he finishes strong and healthy. Again, that's the takeaway. Yes. Get some work in and leave Arizona healthy, reset, have your vacation, show back up out at Goodyear for spring training, ready to rock and roll. And I think that's exactly what Rhett Lowder is going to do. Duno not going to factor into the major league decision-making process in 2026, but nonetheless, look forward to seeing him out in Arizona, at least on the backfields, right?
Be healthy, develop. That's his goal for 2026. And one other thing before we end today's show, there's only one deadline for the offseason that is happening this weekend, or this week. 2 deadlines, actually, both on the same day. On Thursday, all contract options need to be decided upon. And on Thursday, all qualifying offers need to be extended. Don't expect any qualifying offers to come from Nick Krall. I think he might be a little shell-shocked from that for a couple of years.
Yeah, the lessons were learned. And look, in the grand scheme of things, I was fine with the fact that Nick Martinez took that deal, and did the Reds overpay Nick Martinez? And was it a little bit of a reward for how he overachieved the year before? Absolutely. But yeah, Nick Krall's not handing out a qualifying offer this year. It's not happening. And the option situation, I could totally see them not picking up anybody's option. I can see that happening.
Going in with a blank slate. They love themselves a blank slate. Right
They
next
do.
to cash considerations. And that is where we will end today's podcast. Thanks so much for checking out today's Locked On Reds podcast. Make sure that you're following us on your favorite podcasting app. We're on all of them out there, free and available every single day, right here on YouTube as well. Make sure you hit subscribe, hit the like button, the bell to get notified, all the things. Helps out the algorithm. Now, make sure you go check out Locked On MLB. Sully's got you covered at the league at large with his takes that are always historically based, because he was there whenever Ed Roush was thrown out of the game for napping I think that was back in 1918. He was definitely there for that game. So make sure that you check out Sully on Locked On MLB. They're just like Locked On Reds. We're all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. But as for Steve and myself, we will be talking Reds every single day.
Sully's going to be pissed at you for that.
Oh, he knows I call him old.
By the way, love the sweater. I was waiting for you to sing a little song for the outro. Like you always wanted to have a neighbor just like me, something like that.
I'm comfy.